Regagner votre siège, vos bagages à main doivent être rangés dans les coffres et les accessoires sous les sièges devant vous. Ladies and gentlemen, we have begun our descent to Johannesburg. Please return to your seat. Your hand baggage must be stored in the head compartments and accessories in the seat in front of you.
Traveling to foreign lands means traveling within. Discovering lands always turns into the discovery of a part of yourself, a part you might have been unaware of, or a part you decided to ignore. I decided to travel South Africa for a month. Some people collect pictures and souvenirs. I also collected sounds, just like memories.
Please keep your seatbelt fastened until the illuminated sign has been switched off, and be careful when opening the head compartments as items may fall out.
Welcome to Self-Love Tribute. This is Self-Love tribute. This is I Feel a Home Where the Bird Sings. Episode 2, Soweto. Can I be free? I always open the door for my sisters. Besides loving being a gentlewoman, I actively believe in gallantry. So I always make a point to let my sisters through first. With a gentle smile and a compassionate look,
Après vous, madame.
I know it's not that much, but I also know it doesn't hurt. I know what it's like to be a woman in a man's world. I know what it's like to be a black woman in a white man's world. For too long I wore doubt and shame as a necklace. When a woman takes offense, it is deep, deep in her skin. Because only love and its longing can mark a queen. I know what it's like to be a black woman in a white man's world. I went to Soweto. Soweto is a township 15 kilometers southeast of Johannesburg. A person I met there was doing some work for the school and asked me to come to take pictures for them.
I'll just stay here.
Everyone, this is Elia.
Hi.
They may be practicing and doing stuff. But,
Yeah, just let them be. I'll just be around. Where are you going?
You want to come?
Yeah, I'll come with you.
Before your mind goes to this basic racist thought, poor black kids in Africa with no shoes. Believe me, those kids, beyond the racial issues they face, have wealth that would never be portrayed in the media.
Okay, count to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35,
Yeah. And then put it in your mind. And when it puts it in your mind, let's say the teacher wants you to do homework.
Wow.
It's
It's a good number.
A Unfortunately, the media talks to them and has definitely an impact on them.
Hard.
Why? But that's not a job.
You have to work hard. If you want to be a musician, I know, but what do you want? Like who? Famous like who? Like Michael Jackson?
No, Kylie Jenner.
Who?
Oh my god, that's the worst. That's the worst. Especially for women. She's not doing anything, she was just born.
But she's rich.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
money doesn't give you everything.
It does. It gave her happiness, Travis Scott. It gave her baby.
Hey,
Huh?
rich people sometimes can be very unhappy. Yeah.
I saw you more problems.
I enjoyed my happiness when I was young. I don't enjoy it when I'm also want to be rich. Yeah. Hey!
I said, if I'm rich, I can deal with those problems.
Yeah, what piece is saying? She's saying I'm confusing the devil now. Ah. Yes, because I want to be famous.
What
Just
it-
crushing my dreams.
You want to be famous doing what?
Let's tell you, okay? No, I can't sing, so I'll never want to do that. I want to be famous, yeah?
How?
For being the best cardiologist.
Alright, so
Yes.
let's have that conversation. Okay.
Yes. Plus, you know, I don't want to like work in like one hospital. I want to be like on Doctors Without Borders, like always go to every country and like, yeah. So I want to be famous
Let's get
for that.
ambitious.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going there.
I'll support that.
Yes, you should.
I spoke to this 16-year-old girl. She can speak 5 languages. She's a wonderful writer and poet. She's bright, funny. She's beautiful inside out. I can't even remember what we were talking about. I just remember the weight of her words, pronounced with her light, innocent voice. I remember the familiar ache rolling down my chest. She told me my skin was, and I quote, the better one, because I am light-skinned and she's dark-skinned. The sky was starting dripping on my hands. The thunderstorm felt excited to break over the horizon that was already leaning. But I remembered, even the light has wounds. The light, out of all, has wounds. How do you deal with racism that is veiled in the mouth of its direct victim? Colorism. It's the baby of racism and white supremacy. It is the discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. On top of the color of the skin, hair and features are also elements people of color are being discriminated on. so looser curls are more acceptable than kinky hair, and what people call Eurocentric features are more acceptable than what people call African features. Colorism creates this stereotype about how acceptable blackness is. It creates this division between black people, which in the end helps the institutions in power continue ruling. And capitalism too, because the bleaching skin products are still, until now, a multi-billion industry. Of course, the first victim of colorism is the dark-skinned woman. Dark-skinned women have been systematically looked down and attacked over centuries. This is a serious problem that we continuously oppress the black woman when she's the mother of our own race. And when I say race, I don't mean the black race. I'm talking about the human race. The black woman, the dark-skinned woman, is definitely the mother of our own race. The black woman, the dark-skinned woman, is definitely the first woman the earth has seen. And I guess it says a lot about us as a human race. We just live to kill ourselves, and that applies to Mother Nature too. Colorism comes from a place of ignorance, but more so out of a place of self-hate. This young woman was taught to think that my skin looks better than hers by her peers, her environment, the media. But this self-hate was taught to the black community to make sure that we perpetuate this stigma among us, to make sure that we enforce those racist ideas on our own community, because our own sisters and brothers remind us our own impotence in this oppressive system. Creating hatred among us for something so natural as the color of our skin, and instill this idea so deep in our mind we think it's actually ours, it is less likely that we will come together and fight for power and rights as one people. And you know what is even more effective than dehumanizing an entire population in order to rule them? It is to teach them how to do it themselves and sit back and watch them implode. This is colorism. I'm not trying to take away black people's agency. Everyone needs to be held accountable for their own actions. However, this system has been ruling for centuries, and this is why it's so difficult to unlearn for all of us inside the black community that we are not less, and for other people too. I truly believe that everyone is racist. I am racist. Just because I was born and raised in a system constructed on slavery, constructed on oppression, constructed on capitalism. I try to decolonize myself every day, to deconstruct and unlearn all the ideas I was taught and that have a subconscious impact on the way I see others and myself. The difficulty for me was to know how I could help this young girl when this system gives me privileges she doesn't have based on the color of our skin. Can you heal someone else's wounds you never experienced? Is it even possible for me to heal the wounds of a woman in a system that systematically prefers my skin tone because it is closer to the norm, whiteness? I listened to her for a while. I asked her where this idea came from, but she had no idea. I tried to make her see that this idea was not hers. I know that the consequences of this issue go beyond the look of someone's skin. This has institutional consequences that exist in the countries she's living and in mine too. And I think the words she chose said so much. She said, my skin was the better one, not the prettier one, the better one. She must have seen that the color of my skin, because of its proximity to whiteness, gives people privileges dark-skinned people do not have access to. Of course, I could try to convince her that she does not deserve the abuse that comes from colorism. And although I'm treated as a black woman in Europe, I could never deny that the color of our skin doesn't affect our social and economic situations. Because I am closer to whiteness, my blackness is more acceptable, more tolerated in this world. I asked myself, will we ever be free from the social construct? In the meantime, what can I do to make this better?
I know, I gotta stay up so I'm not being rude, snoring in the back seat.
The sky was dark, and it was time for me to go back.
Good night, sweet dreams. She was saying this to me. Because you're not a girl.
The songs of those kids stayed in my head. While humming the song they sang, I hope for this bright young woman to recognize her own light.
You have something to say. You don't have anything to say.
Yes.
All right. You don't have to tell me, but I'm always here for you if you ever want to talk to her. But you can talk to her. Ryan is the one that... Okay? My friends are good nice people. And I'm going to see you on Friday.
I really struggled to write the end of this episode. But I realized there's no end. First, because I could never cover colorism or racism in a 20-minute podcast episode. I'm aware that as a light-skinned person, I must have blind spots. Second, because this work might take a lifetime, and I constantly have to decolonize myself, check up on myself and the messages I consume, because a lot of them are anti-blackness or serve prejudices and cliches about blackness that are only beneficial to white supremacists. This is maybe the only way for me to get closer to freedom. Third, I have to be aware of my privileges and use them as much as I can to fight for what I believe in. However, in the meantime, I will always open the door for you, sister. Besides loving being a gentlewoman, I actively believe in gallantry, so I will always make a point to let you through first, sister. With a gentle smile and a compassionate look.
Après vous, madame.
I know it's not that much, but I also know this doesn't hurt. I know what it's like to be a black woman in a white man's world.